Hi folks, thanks very much for joining me for this week's river tutorial. What you see in the vise is a Comparadun style fly. So without further ado, let's get into it. In the vise then is a Hanak H130 barbless hook. This one's at size 12 for demonstration purposes, and it's a black nickel hook in a fine wire. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Semperfly, and it's the Nano silk. It's at 12/0 and it's black. First thing I'm going to do is put a little dab of super glue onto the shank of the hook, just to bed my Nano silk in. I know a lot of people much prefer to see wax going on the thread, but I think with the Nano silks you can't beat a touch of super glue. So I'm using my rat's tail just to guide me back, and I'm going to stop approximately where a barb would be on the hook, or just before actually. Take away that rat's tail, and next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my tail, and I'm using some Coq De Leon. This one's from Troutline, and it's the Palma Leon, and as you can see, it's a lovely barred feather. So I'm going to take approximately half a dozen fibres from the stalk, and I'm going to dress that up, and I want it to be about the length of the body. So I can bring that up, catch in the couple of turns, just check your length. If you're content with the length, you can bring your thread all the way back up the shank and stop approximately 1/4 of an inch from the eye of the hook, and then you can remove the waste, like so. Okay, next then we're going to tie in our wing. Now I know a lot of people, they like to tie in the wing first and then add the tail, but I find it's easier doing it this way round. So I'm going to use some of this deer hair I've got here. It's got lovely, nice black tips, and it's very, very nice to work with. So I'm going to take approximately 1 centimetre worth from the bottom of my patch that I've got here. I've got to come in quite close. Now with this particular deer hair, and with any deer hair actually, once you've got your little section off here, you've really got to comb it out, and this one's particularly important. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time getting as much off the fluff and under fur out of the deer hair. If you don't do this, especially with this stuff, it won't stack properly. Just get as much of it, the waste, out as you can. Now, I'm using, this is the C&F hair stacker. As you can see, it's got a hard rubber stopper. Now a lot of the stackers you might see have got pads on. That's no good. You really need the hard stopper. So if you have got one with the foam on the bottom, just take it off. You don't need it. I don't know why they do that. But this one's okay. It's not the cheapest. It's certainly not the most expensive. You can spend a fortune on fly tying kit, but there's lots of different ones out there. I just like this one. So I'm just going to drop my deer hair into my stacker, and then just off camera I'm going to give it a little tap on the table, and then when I take it out, it will hopefully be nicely stacked. It doesn't always work out like that, I've got to say. Make sure you grab it at the tips, and then what I want to do is tie it in with the tips going that way, so it's obviously in the wrong hand at this point. So I'm going to use my forefinger on my right hand and transfer it over. Now what I want is the length of the shank. So I'm going to lay that up to where I think, and I can see where I've got to tie in now. So it's just in front of my fingers, my mark. A couple of loose turns to get it on, and then you've really got to clamp down on this, and you want it to stay as much as possible on top of the shank. Now I've kept a hold of my ends here, and the reason for that is I want to come in with my snips and take away the excess. Now I've cut it at an angle so that I can get a nice taper into the body. So I'll just bring my thread over again, and what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of wax at this point, just to get that grip. And I'm going to work my taper so it's nice and smooth. So I'm fairly happy with that at the moment. It's not too bad. If you think that your wing's not sitting more on top of the shank, you've probably got a little bit of wiggle room just to move it. Okay, for the body of this fly then, I'm going to be using some of the dark tan. This is from Fish On, and what it's got, I don't know how well you can see, is little gold flecks throughout the dubbing. So I'm just going to pick a little bit out the top of the packet, and again with this fly I want to try and get a nice taper into the body. So I'm going to dub down hard initially, and then try and thicken up my dubbing as I go. Now I can always add more if I need to, so I'll push that up and then bring it carefully up the body of the fly. And as you can see, I'm getting a nice taper on there. Next, I'm going to slick my hare's ear up and bring in that dubbing really hard into the base here, so that it sits proud. Oh, it's kind of gone a bit too much there. I've over-egged it, as they say. And I'm going to remove my excess dubbing and then bring it all to the front of the hook at the eye. Yeah, that's looking not too bad. Pretty pleased with that. So next I'm going to add a little bit of UV resin. And I'm going to come in with a whip finish tool. I don't really fish the Comparadun style very much. I don't find it particularly a good fly for me, but some people really like it, and it is quite an interesting technique. So I thought I would give it a go, and it produces a lovely looking fly, to be fair. So that's looking pretty good. Just tease out the bits and bobs you want. Now, as I do with most of my dries, I'm going to add a little bit of muslin to the wing before it goes in the fly box. And what this does is it just, when you're on the river, time's precious, and you want to get the most. So you can take this out your box, tie it on. You don't need to worry about treating it. It's already pre-treated and it's ready to go. I hope you enjoyed that. It's definitely good fun to tie and worth giving a go. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please think about clicking the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. See you all next time.